perfect life looks brilliant. Give me more of this. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. Yeah, you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy by the light. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. And get you out of my hand again. Is it wrong? Is it right? It's like I've won my final war without a fight. I'm out of control, about to blow, and I've been caught in the undertow. So toxic, but I can't get enough. You bury me, bury me. I know you bury me, bury me. You've got me hypnotized. Push me out of myself. You've got me hypnotized. I can see, I can hear, going crazy by the light. It's got me hypnotized. You've got me hypnotized. Get you out of my head. Get you out of my head again.
Please note.
Never gonna stop, never gonna change, never gonna do the things you say. I run my own way to get there. Pulls a coin in the eye, seem to care. In the air, no more crowd, just the opposite kind of few clouds. So tell me this time is coming, for the sake of all your lies. Why don't you try to be why? Now that I need you, why? Just to feel like I'm fading. And though my heart breaks, I beat it down. I cross the lines just to tell you, don't leave the way, don't leave the day. That I try with a shadow playing in the rain. I feel like I'm fading.
We don't need no sleep because the party don't stop. So put your hands on me and turn me on, turn me up. We don't need no sleep because the party don't stop. So put your hands on me and turn me on, turn me up.
And boom, just like that, it's Thursday night. And you know what that means. It's party time with the Video Bros. I'm Bobby Munson, and the man beside me, you know him. He's the man with the angelic voice. He is Papa Smokes. Papa Smokes, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing absolutely great. Happy Thursday to everybody, all the wrestling fans out there. And look at this, Munson. We've got a very special guest tonight.
We do have a very special guest. We've seen him in SPW. He has worked all over New Zealand. We're going to talk all about it tonight. He is the Divine Savior, the Devine Light, James Shaw.
That was an awesome intro. That was a fantastic intro. Yeah, to the magic of technology. It's one in the afternoon on a Friday in New Zealand, and we're talking to you on a Thursday night, I believe. Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. Crazy,
Yeah.
isn't it?
At 9 p.m. on the East Coast, where we are, it's just after 7 o'clock, and for you, it's already Friday. So
Yeah, I had to do a bit of math when we arranged the interview. It it was a bit of a mind bend. I was just trying to figure out when I needed to wake up and stuff, but we got it in the end, which was good. So I was a bit stressed I was going to miss it. I was like, oh man, so I set alarms and stuff, and we got it.
Well, we are here. We've made it happen, and we got guests joining us here in the chat as well too. Basser's up now saying, "What are you guys up to this Saturday?" Well, Bass, I know Papa Spokes and I might be at a certain show called Prairie Pro Wrestling this Saturday, and I think you just might be as well too. So we shall see you there. And look who it is. It's our Twitch chat champion there when we do our Ring Respect trivia nights. It's BDJ in the house. Holy hell, what an intro, Munson. Whoa, BDJ's being nice to me for a change. It's kind of a change of pace there. So, but speaking of being nice, Papa folks, I mean, I want to address something. We did the review recently of the Southern Rumble here on the program, and you had some not so nice words for the actions of our guest there and the dissension between him and his tag team partner. So, James, I know you listened to that show. Well, how did you feel about Papa Spokes taking a little dig at you there?
It's normal, man. It's completely normal. I fully understand. I mean, I guess that means I'm doing a good job, I guess, which it's a compliment. So I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys' efforts and all the stuff you guys do. It's really cool to like see someone on the other side of the planet. I was going to say country, but it's a broader scale than that. Yeah, and it's cool seeing like people like giving us exposure. We're a small little country down in the bottom of the southern hemisphere, so it's really awesome to see that. So all of us from New Zealand, we really appreciate it. We really thank you and stuff. So yeah.
You know, it's incredible. Like again, you sent me some stuff from IPW that I've shared as well too with Papa Smokes, and I believe if
awesome.
I'm reading correctly when I checked into your background, IPW is where you got your start.
Yeah. So for the context of New Zealand, Invercargill's at the very bottom of the Southern Island, and that's it's the identical distance to Vancouver, to where you guys are. But is it Saskatoon? How do I pronounce it?
Yeah,
Saskatoon. I've been trying to pronounce it all week. I've been terrible at it. So I live in Auckland, which is like it's the complete opposite end of New Zealand. So I started in Auckland in 2007, and I've just been going hard since. And then, so for every Invercargill show, I'll fly down, which is it's great. I really look forward to those trips, and they're a cool bunch of guys. So I started in Auckland, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I believe, in fact, for SPW, it's only been a couple of years for you so far.
Yeah. Well, I was there. I was there for their first couple of shows in 2015. I worked their first 3 shows, and then I just you know how you go on cycles and stuff with independent companies. I didn't really work their shows, but I worked with a lot of their guys like JK Moody and Kane and stuff. We were all quite close, worked around the country, and then it wasn't until 2022 where they reached out. They're like, "Hey, we want you regularly on these shows," and I was all for it. I was like, "Absolutely, that'd be great." So since then, so it's 2022, I believe, which
Perfect.
I haven't missed a show. Thankfully, I'm really thankful that they keep booking me.
Yeah, it's a fantastic production. It's what draws us to it. We see it, you know, even when you and I were speaking yesterday, I know Papa Spokes and I have said it many times, draw a lot of similarities to how we run with Prairie Pro Wrestling as well, too.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that connection comes for us. And you guys do so great between the production and the everything that the fans are getting involved with and everything. Like, you can hear them in the background shouting, screaming, having a hell of a time.
They do such an amazing job down there. And for context, Invercargill, it's a very small town in New Zealand. Like, there's running jokes in New Zealand that not a lot goes on in that country. But when it comes to wrestling, it's almost like the mecca of our country. Like, it's the best production. It's like some of the best talent, and then like you get about 500 people in that building, which is it's pretty good for a New Zealand like independent wrestling scene. They do such a fantastic job, and like the video editing and the video quality and stuff. I mean, that stuff goes over my head. Like, I don't know where to start with that stuff. So when I see it, I'm like, holy, like they just do such an amazing job. And through that, they help IPW in Auckland. Like, they do all the editing and stuff for us, which is great too. Like that's why that production looks fantastic and stuff. So in a way, they're brother and sister company. They work quite closely, and yeah, it's a great relationship.
That's fantastic. Just going to go to the chat here for a moment, and then we'll maybe turn this over to Papa Smoke. Saying hello to Bobby Stats. Bobby Petito's up in the house. How you doing, my friend? Thanks for joining us. BDJ has a question. He's asking, he first states that PPW has some great chants. Many of those chants that we will not repeat here on Ring Respect Radio because I don't want to get us canceled. But what are some of the best coming out of, say, IPW or even SPW for that matter, or some of the ones that we can get away with saying here that might be appropriate for the channel?
The first one that pops in my mind, I can't say, so I won't. So I'll move that to the side. IPW, SPW, they got some great chants. In IPW, I think in Auckland, because I've been there for 17 years, I get some really good ones. Where I feel in SPW, I've only just kind of started getting in the scene, so I don't get as creative chants like Marcus and JK Moody get and stuff because they've been there since day naught. But in IPW, I get every time I come out, I get the chant "Please retire." Like it's a huge. I get it all the time, and that was because when I started this character, the Divine Savior, I faked my retirement. I did this angle where I got concussed, and I was like publicly for about 4 months. I was like, I'm wrapping up if I get another concussion. I don't want to risk it. All that. I get the second concussion, storyline wise, kayfabe wise, and I claim that I saw a bright light, a bright white flash from my concussion, and then I'm wrapping up. So we built to a show where I was doing my farewell speech. At this point, I'd been wrestling for 14 to 15 years, so it's a respectable like amount of time to retire. Everyone believed it, and then in that retirement speech, I threw the wrench and I declared that I was retiring the sinful body and that I was the divine savior now, and that's how that character started. So that was 2019, just before the pandemic. So from there onwards, I've always had the "Please Retire" chant. It's just constant every time I come out. Before that, my father's my manager. He comes out and manages me on those IPW shows. He dresses as a priest and stuff. It's a bit hard to get him down to Invercargill because the flights are pretty expensive. So I just do the solo trip, and then that's where Prophet Palmer takes that role. He does a fantastic role too. But when I was with my dad before that, I used to get the chance "Daddy's boy." That was before I was the Divine Savior. So I would lean into that, and him and I would kiss on stage, and I'd be like, "I'm allowed to kiss my father," and we'd just get some mega, some good heat.
Oh, that's legendary. That's awesome. Love that. Not sure if this is a familiar name for you, but William Carriage, thank you for joining us here on the show. Saying IPW legend James Shaw. So thank you for joining. And Bobby Stats got a question here, and then I promise, Papa Smokes, we'll let you get some talking in here for one. But he wants to know which company, James, would you like to debut at or work for, say in 2024 or 2025, given the opportunity?
WWE and AEW, I guess. Yeah, well,
whoever's saying this, right?
I would 100% be. Yes, please. I think I would be happy anywhere like that would just give me an opportunity and stuff, and that would allow me to see the world. I'd love to do a trip to Canada one day. I've got family in Canada. So I've got family in Thunder Bay. I'm not 100% sure where that is compared to you guys.
Yeah, over on the east side of the country.
Yeah, I've got a bit of Canadian blood in me, which my mum's got a big Canadian tattoo and stuff.
Oh,
so yeah, I'd love to come down to Prairie Pro Wrestling one day. That would be great.
Oh, hell yeah.
As for big companies, I mean WWE would be great. I mean, you wouldn't say no to that, right?
Nope.
NXT. I don't know how good I would do in the promotion, but
well, might as well make some money while you can, even if you get that chance.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Papa Smokes, we have a window here where nobody has said anything just yet, so I'm going to turn over to you. Have the floor. What do you got to ask?
Sure. I like to go back to the very beginning. You said you started as an active wrestler in 2007, but let's go back further than that. exposure? What was your first exposure to pro wrestling? What did you first watch, and what lit the fire possibly when you were a kid to get you interested in this?
Okay, I love telling the story because it's a bit crazy. It's a bit crazy. So, how PG are we in this? Pretty
Oh,
PG.
Very.
we're not PG. We can get away with some stuff.
So, in New Zealand, we only had one channel that would play the wrestling, and it was called Sky One. It turned into the box. But at midnight, let's say it was very adult themed shows on at midnight. And as a teenager, a 15-year-old boy, I would always try and watch those shows. But
The old Skin Max pictures.
exactly.
There
But
we go.
just before those shows was Monday Night Raw. So classically, I would always catch the end of Monday Night Raw, leading into you'd switch over, then you'd lead into the shows that you intended to watch on Sky One. Now, in primary, I actually thought wrestling was pretty stupid. I remember a lot of the kids and stuff at school watching it. I was like, that's so dumb. Like, I never gave it a chance and stuff. And then in 2005, that's when I started watching the shows on Sky, and I'd always catch the end of Batista and Triple H leading up to WrestleMania.
Okay.
And every time I watched over, like I started getting invested. I was like, oh man, these guys are really hating each other and stuff. So I found myself every week before I'd flip over a little bit earlier, and then I'd always catch the last segment of Raw. And they're obviously leading to WrestleMania, so I got really invested. And then I just remember they showed a clip once of two clips. They showed Tajiri doing the green mist on someone. And I was like, what is that? And I remember my sister turning to, I was like, this stuff's so cool. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And then I remember they showed a clip of Triple H and Jericho in the Hell in the Cell. And Jericho was covered in blood. And I was like, maybe this is real. Like I was just like, I was unsure. So from there onwards, I was like, I'm gonna watch wrestling from the start now. So then I started watching wrestling from the start, the Raw from the start. And then I went SmackDown was on. I was like, well, I'll just watch that. And then from there on, I was hooked. I just became a mega fan. And obviously New Zealand's so far away. We didn't get a lot of they never came to us, obviously, the smallest country. Up until 2006, the beginning of 2006, they were doing a tour in New Zealand. So that was my first ever live professional wrestling. I remember seeing Undertaker, Kurt Angle, and Mark Henry do a triple threat for the world title. And like that show, like we drove to Wellington, which was a 9-hour drive. That's our capital of our country. Me and my dad, we watched the show, and like I remember from there on, I was like, I'm gonna become a pro wrestler somehow. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I have to do this because I always enjoyed like the theatre side of things, and so I was a bit of a class clown. I always got told off at school, so I was like, I have to find a way to do this. So that was 2006, and I remember just jumping on Google, and I was like, is there any professional wrestling in New Zealand? Like, there has to be something. And at the time, there were two promotions. There was one in Auckland, one in Wellington, and IPW popped up on Google. And I remember it was a Sunday, and they just had a show the day before, so I missed it. And they only did monthly shows, so I had a month of like waiting almost like waiting in the bushes, waiting this next show. And I remember just going, yeah, I went to it, and from there on, I remember turning to my dad after that show in Auckland. I was like, I'm gonna do this. I have to find a way to get in. So yeah, so I waited for about 6 months, and I kept emailing, going, "Are there tryouts? Are there tryouts?" And then I remember in December they finally messaged me, and they were like, "Yep, tryouts in January." Came along, $50, paid my $50, did the tryout. I threw up in the tryout. I was so nervous, and I had such a big breakfast. Yeah, and I thought my fitness level was great. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Threw up, and I remember just being, I was like, I've blown it, man. And I was like, well, just finish the tryout and then trying to go next year. So I just did the tryout, and then I remember 2 weeks later, I got the call from we have a legend called The Machine. He practically started New Zealand wrestling here in the 2001. That was when it all started here. And he just called me. He's like, "Yep, we're gonna let you in if you're keen." And I was absolutely. And then I started training 2007. So yeah, it's been all merged into one blur since. It feels like
That's
yesterday,
crazy.
to be honest.
That's crazy because you really were only a fan for 2 years before you
Yeah,
started wrestling.
I know. And at the time there was no archived like there was no network, so I couldn't go back and watch all these. I could maybe get DVDs of pay-per-views and stuff, but I remember talking to my friend and like asking about storylines on Raw because when I came in, there was all these like ongoing storylines, and I was like, "Oh, well, how did this happen?" Like, I was asking about it and stuff. And no one at my school watched wrestling, so I felt like a bit of an outcast because like it was like a hidden secret. Oh yeah, I like pro wrestling. Nowadays, now it's very accepted, which I think's really cool. Like you don't have to be ashamed of being a pro wrestler now, like a pro wrestling fan. Like you can openly go, I like wrestling, and people are like, hell yes, that's awesome. But like
Yeah.
I feel like back in '05, it was a bit of a like, oh, you watch that stuff, like. So I remember, I found one friend at school. That's how we got close, and then he watched it, and I was asking him about all the storylines, and then he was like, yeah, Kane and Undertaker, they're brothers, and I was like, wait, what? That guy that chases Lita around and that other guy, I couldn't believe. Yes, I was learning about all these storylines. Like, yeah, it was great. It was cool learning about them all. Like, and like not having context of them, you were just like, oh, what? I can't imagine what they're like. So when that network came back on, I was like, oh, I'm going to start again. And me and David Dunn, who for those who watch SPW, we would regularly watch Raws like in order. And we started from '03 because I randomly just watched Triple H versus Shawn Michaels on there because it's such a great match. And I was just studying it, and I was like, and I messaged Dunn, and I was like, man, these '03 Raws are great. I'm just going to watch them in order. So then he was like, oh, I'll jump in with you. So we would do Zoom calls like this and just watch Raw. And we're up to '06 at the moment. So yeah, they're right.
Oh,
We're like, Spirit Squad are just causing mayhem on Raw, which I love. I'm a big Spirit Squad fan.
yeah. Well, that's the lovely thing about technology is that you can do those kinds of things. But speaking of which, we're going to go to the chat now, and we got White Diamond JR. I think you'll know who this is right here, saying, "Hey guys, joining us in the chat. Thank you for joining us." And says, "You're a legend, man. Always helpful in my career as a referee." So we got an official referee in the chat. So thank you for
All right.
joining us here tonight. And of
Awesome.
course, another name that we're not as familiar with, TKO DDAK asks, "What is your favorite move in wrestling?"
Interesting. Taking or receiving? I think I probably the Death Valley Driver. I've just been doing that for 12 years now. I call it the Divine Valley Driver. I like it. It's just simple. It's just a nice move. RKO too, because everyone knows that move. It's already over. It's already established by Randy Orton. So when you do it on like, we get a lot of fans who aren't like who are new to wrestling. So when you do stuff like that, they know what it is. I don't really have too much creative moves. I'm not good at that coming up with creative offenses and stuff. I just like the simple like slams and stuff and whatnot. That being said, though, I haven't done it in SPW, but I've got a finisher that I've been doing for the last couple of years. It's cool. We call it the knocks out. Um, basically, it's like a torture rack, but you spin around like as much as you can. So you're spinning, 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 and then you launch them,
Oh,
and they go
fantastic.
flying in the air. Yeah. So I do that on occasion to littler people because I love just sitting them flying. But yeah, when I'm wrestling bigger guys, I like when I'm wrestling someone like Jamie Tongue at SA or something. I no chance of me doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those would be
he's
my
he's a
three.
big man.
He's a big man indeed. Yeah, very big, very nice guy too. So humble.
All right, going back to the chat here for a moment. Astrid's joining us in the chat. We'll give her one of these. Hey, Astrid, how's it going? And of course, we will go back here. We got one more question, I believe. Yes, we got one more question. All right, two more questions actually. We'll start with this one from White Diamond. What's one match you would do again or do over?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Interesting. I'd probably say everything from last year going back. That's probably an easy answer. One specific one there, I remember my worst match of all times online, and I remember it's on. I show it to people. I'm like, this is the worst match I've ever done, and it was from '09 Armageddon, and I wrestled a fella called Dills Deluxio, who is now right. I don't know. He wrestles in 01. Ryden, right? Yeah, Kiwi fella. He's like 6'6", jacked, ripped, really good fella. And I wrestled him, and at the time I was like 19. I was the skinniest little runt, and like I just went over him for some reason. I remember I just beat him, and it just made no sense in the context of things. Like, yeah, and the match was awful. And I was the vet. I was the one that was supposed to be leading it, and you know that was a good wake up call. Going, oh, maybe I don't think I'm as good as I am at this. So yeah, I would pick that '09 Armageddon.
Perfect. I'm going to kind of put this one coming in from Bobby in two different ways. So he wants to know who you'd like to wrestle against. I'm going to jazz that up a little. Who would you like to wrestle against that maybe you haven't or just really enjoy wrestling in New Zealand? And then anywhere across the world, that one wrestler you'd like to have that match with.
Well, we'll start with that one first. That would probably be Cena or Ric Flair. That would be like my dream. I would just be like, I would shut my mouth and be like, tell me what to do, sir. You know, I feel like, and just in that one match, I could probably learn so much, like from legends like that. As for New Zealand, I've never wrestled J.K. Moody in
Oh,
the
really?
in the 17 years I've been doing this. He's been almost going for 10. We've tagged, we've done like odd matches and rumbles and stuff, but I've never had a singles match with him. And he's
Interesting.
like on the very top of, because to me, J.K. Moody's like one of the best wrestlers New Zealand's ever produced. Like he's amazing. Like,
Mm.
and to me, like he's on that top mecca. Him and K9,
Yeah.
they're just phenomenal. So like J.K. Moody's 100% on the top of that list. I'd love to wrestle Ryder as well because I've never had the opportunity to wrestle Ryder because we've obviously been tag teams. But obviously that'll look like it's
Might
heading
not be
towards that
far off
way.
of it.
It might happen quite a lot coming up. So
Yeah.
yeah. So those two, I would say Ryder and J.K. Moody. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And then we got James Shaw versus Brock Lesnar according to White Dynamite. I mean, you said you had Canadian ties, and so does Brock now. So I mean,
That would be a good squash. I would love to wrestle. Brock's one of my favorite wrestlers too. So I mean, I would absolutely love that. I mean, it would be a minute. It'd be a good squash.
he actually
But yeah.
legitimately lives about an hour and a half away from where Papa Smokes and I.
Of course, I didn't think about that. Damn, that must be a
Yeah.
little scary knowing someone like that lives.
As far as I understand,
we told him if he
not
needs
there
a
very
wrestling company to work in, he can come to PPW.
Awesome. Imagine him just tearing it up there. That would be great.
Yeah,
Wow.
Bobby's saying James Shaw versus Bad Dude Tito. That there we go. That's a good match there. Bad Dude Tito ripping it up there in MLW at the moment, so that would be an interesting one. And TKO says, "What's the most painful move you've ever taken?"
Painful move. Well, I tore my MCL doing a suicide dive.
Oh, ouch.
And since then I've never done one. That's when I was a bit lighter. But the thing is, I'm not an athletic. Like, I'm not good with the jumping and stuff. I don't know why I was doing that type of stuff. I later learned that like I was better off just putting on size and tossing people around. Like, because I'm 111 now, so 111 kgs. Back then, yeah, suicide dive's probably my that was the most painful.
Yeah.
I remember getting whipped with a extension cord in a hardcore match once, and that's still like that still rings in my brain how painful that was.
Yeah. Well, even again, knowing what we know, of course, like because Papa Smokes and I have been behind the curtain, we've been there, we've taken a few bumps ourselves in training stuff. So we know what certain things feel like, and watching sometimes you can just feel the pain for the workers inside that ring when we're watching, whether it be watching, say, you guys over in SPW or being there live in Prairie Pro, and especially like for us, that connection to people we've sat down and talked to or we
Yeah.
work with on a regular basis, like, shit, is he okay? Like, and
Yeah,
you want to go like check on him, but you got to do your role at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hard one, especially if you're a bad guy and you see someone hurt, like your mate hurt. You're like, yeah, that's right. You're like, shit, are you all right there? Yeah. So, but yeah, It's crazy how like sometimes the moves that don't look the sorest, they are just sometimes the most worst things you can ever imagine. I think last weekend I got chopped in the throat, and like I just had a fingerprint like that for like 4 days. I remember going into work and people were like, "What's that on your neck?" And I was like, "It's too hard to explain that a grown man just slapped me, intended to slap me on the chest, but it slipped up a bit and slapped me in the throat."
That's some of
So
those
you,
some of those bumps on the apron. Just
yeah,
I'm wincing before it even happens because it's just, damn, you guys are actually going to do that. Like it makes a big
yeah,
effect if you use one once in a while, but some of those before it even happens, I'm just thinking, oh God.
yeah. It used to be like the top rope. I remember like 10 years ago, it was like, oh, something from the top rope, and now it's shifted like a lot towards the apron now, and it just keeps getting more and more. It will get to the point where it's customary to take the padding off, and it's just the wood and steel, and just doing moves on those. I mean, we see that
Yeah.
sometimes in some promotions. So yeah.
Well, I got to say, you got quite the following because our chat is lit right up with people
Oh,
wanting to
awesome.
ask questions here. In fact, we're going to go to another new chatter here tonight. James' number one fan, in fact, wants to know who's some talent worth checking out in New Zealand.
Well, I would say J.K. Moody, K9. They're the top of the list. They're phenomenal. You've got Jamie Tunga de Esse, the big man. T Hawk. These are all people you see in SPW. Sometimes I think you may have seen him. Sam
Yep.
Spartan,
Yeah.
Horace. They're top guys in Auckland. And then you've got guys like Pat Shish. And then obviously to me our like two greatest successful wrestlers, Dakota Kai and Hinade. They're obviously 100% worth seeing because they're phenomenal talent. Like they know what they're doing. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And again, we've got tons of people with questions, so we're going to try to get to as many of these as we can. Crunchy Brad says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad did it suck when Elf and I picked the glass out of your back and fans bring the weapons in 2017? I need to hear this story now.
Yeah. So every end of the year in IPW, we always do fans ring the weapons. It's been a staple since 2001. So it's a tradition. That's a traditional match. Recently that match has been moved for September now, which is next week, surprisingly. So for anyone in New Zealand, we've got fans ring the weapons coming up next week. So every year, fans ring the weapons. It's like our WrestleMania. It's our big match of the year. It's a lot of people's goals to be in it. Especially as a young talent, you're like, man, I can't wait to do crazy stuff, and everyone tries to one up each other every year and whatnot. So I've only been in three. My last one was 2017, and I wanted to go all out. And I just remember I remember finding some light tubes, and the classic, just wallop me in the back with the light tube to the wrestler I was wrestling. It was Kurt Chaos. He's retired. He's stopped now. Fantastic wrestler. He was like, yeah, cool. So we get into the match. Hits me with the light tube. I roll to the outside, and I just remember one of the tech guys coming up to me, and he just goes, "Your back's effed," and I'm like, it was a triple threat. So these two were just wrestling in the ring, and I'm like, man, have I done damage? And I'm just laying down, and he's like, yeah, your muscles have your muscles teared, like I can see inside your muscle.
Ooh.
Jesus.
And I was like, crap, what the hell, like I can't see this thing, and I'm panicking a bit, and I just turned to the ref who's checking on me, and I go, "Can you go get Alfred Valentine?" Now, Alfred Valentine was my trainer. He's someone that I watched when I started. He started wrestling in New Zealand. I was like, "Can you just go get Alfred Valentine? I just want his opinion." So he was playing the GM role at the time, so it wasn't far fetched for him to just come out checking the wrestlers. He just comes out, and I just go, "How bad is it?" And he goes, "It's fine, man." I was like, "Oh." So I think it was just this tech guy just like overreacting a bit. It was the smallest stitch in my back, but I remember it just threw me off of the match because I was imagining like my muscles like this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell I was like seeing on my back. It was the tiniest stitch. I get in that ring. Um, my hands gushing blood at this point. Like I was so worried about this. I didn't look down, and it was like a fountain. Like my hand was, and I'm like, shoot, I think I've hit an artery. I
Oh, no.
immediately regretted the spot. I was like, man, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, there's bigger spots than this too. It's not even like a big spot. It wasn't even worth it. Like, all it was to take me out of the triple threat, so like you could build up to my comeback. That's all the spot was. And my hands gushing blood, and I'm panicking. And there was a distinct moment. I'm pretty cool in that ring. Like, I really don't get lost. But everyone said it's the first time in probably like a while they saw me like visually get lost in that because I looked down and I was like, I had almost like an out of body experience. I'm not a hardcore wrestler, so when I see that stuff, I was like, oh, what have I done? I'm an idiot. I I'm like, man, I kind of snap out of it. We do this match. Match goes way too long. I should have cut it down to I should have cut it. It went 49 minutes. I think it was
Oh,
ridiculous. Yeah, in hindsight, that would be a match I would go back and change because my older self there, like now, like 10 years later almost, I would have been like, just go 20. Like you don't even have to do that. 15. You can get everything you need in 15.
yeah.
You know. So it's funny in hindsight, the older you get, right? So gushing blood, I clear it out. We wrestle, and I'm like, man, it's okay. I think it's not an artery. It's something. We'll suss it when I get backstage. We do the finish. I take the fall. 1, 2, 3. I took a DVD off the stairs onto a pile of weapons, so I'm lying there, dead. The heel Kurt Cows just comes in and rolls me like he steals the pin. 1, 2, 3. I'm immediately out. I'm like, man, we got to go check on this artery, man. I clear my hand, and it was almost like the scar was a pin drop. I could not believe the size that it was producing this blood. Because I remember in the match squeezing it, and it was fountaining out like this.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was the tiniest pin drop I have ever seen. And I was like, how does that produce that amount of blood? Like, and obviously that doesn't need stitches because the pin needle would have made a bigger hole than the actual. Yeah, so it was just, and I remember we went to A&E straight away to get stitches. Saturday night I was dreading it because I was like, man, this is like the hospital's gonna be just packed. I go in, no one's there. The nurse is like, just come through now. 5 minutes, done. I head back, help with unloading. And I was like, oh, I can't believe it. I thought I was going to be there all night. So, yeah. I've got that match online. I can send that to like people and stuff. There's a distinct moment. But yeah,
Oh, 100%.
that's
We
that silly story.
got to see that. I'm going to go to another person here who hasn't got a question in yet. What's your thoughts on CPW in Wellington, and when will you bless us with your divine presence again?
Yeah, I love CPW. Jay Marshall's the fella that runs it. He's doing a really good job. CPW's a newish company. I would say, 2018 they started. 6 years. So they've been going for 6 years. They're based in Wellington. They're doing a real cool job. They get around 100 people a show and stuff. They're chugging along. They're doing real awesome. I was champ for a week there, and then I hurt my foot and I couldn't make the show. I was supposed to defend the title, so I had to vacate the title. So if I can, I'd love another run at that title to rectify that terrible run. It was just a week. But yeah, CPW is great. Really big fan. Always enjoy CPW shows. Always enjoy going down to Wellington.
Perfect. So CPW, watch out. Xavier could be coming back very soon.
I think I'm down there in November. I think that we're doing they've got a show tomorrow night, but I've got my work schedule's a bit wonky, so.
Perfect. We'll go back to a question we had just a minute ago. Before that, though, saying hello to Ed Fries, good friend of ours, and also to tune into Ed Fries on shows throughout the channel, including Tuesdays, taking over with himself and Astrid, talking all things NXT. I'm going to go back here to James's number one fan. I think it was James's number one fan. Hold on. Where is this question here? There's a good question here, and I'm getting so lost. We got so many coming in. This is quite good. Oh no, sorry, this was TKO's question. My apologies. Who has the most painful chop in New Zealand? I know who we'd say here in Saskatchewan, hands down, because I've been on the receiving end of one. But New Zealand, who's the hardest?
I'm curious who that is, because
for us it's El Assassino, 100%. That guy's a son of a bitch when he chops. It hurts bad. So when I did my first weekend camp, I was chopped by about good 19 dudes in a row. And then the last one to go is El Assassino. And I'm like, all right, I got to be numb to this shit already. And he looks across the ring at me and he goes, "You're a dead man, Munson." And I'm like, oh, fuck. And he comes running in and he hit me harder than I've been hit in my entire life. Took the wind right out of me. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, and I was red already. That took me to a whole different shade of red at that point in time.
That sounds amazing. I mean, surely there's clips online of these chops. I love chops, man. I'm a big fan of chops. It must be the Flair side of it, because I love Ric Flair, but I just think they're the coolest thing. I think it's J.K. Moody. I've heard through the grapevines that anytime someone takes a chop from him, they're like, "What the hell did I just experience?" So yeah, K9's got some pretty tough ones too. Yeah, I would say those two. And Marcus Cole. Marcus Cole's got some really good ones as well.
He's a
I just watched one of your matches against Kai Solomon.
Oh yeah,
am I saying that right?
Yeah,
he chops the living shit out of you in that match. Ooh,
now, that's one I forgot about. He doesn't actively wrestle too much. He had a small stint for a couple of years. He was a good talent. I do remember his chops being like. I remember it was a bar show, and taking a couple of those, I was like, "Oh, what the? This new fella."
He was doing your chest and then your back, and then he took you outside the ring, sat you in the front row, and did the double one on both sides of the chest.
I think they call it the Mongolian chop, if I remember SmackDown vs. Raw on the PlayStation correctly. He lit me up, man, and I love taking them on the back. I actually prefer taking them on the back than the chest. I know everyone's the opposite, but I just something. So I always present my back when I'm taking shots. I'm just like just wallop me as hard as you can. But I have a rule, because I chop quite a lot on my offense, and I'm like I feel bad because I don't want to chop someone and then be like, God, that hurts. So I always say, if I chop you, you are 100% welcome to chop me back. Just go for it. And if you want to chop me, you 100% just go for it. You got my consent, man. Like, I'm all for chops. I just love the reaction they get. So, yeah, I love a good. I remember I wrestled Marcus Cole a couple of weeks ago, and just in Auckland, and I remember he had chopped me, and I remember it just echoed around the venue, and I was like, oh, just more of those, more of those, more of those.
Yeah, well, we'll have to find some of the really strong ones that you can hear just crack off people's skin from LS, or what I'll do is maybe next time when we do the tapings this Saturday or something like that, if El Assassino, I'm sure he'll be in action. If he's laying in some chops or something, I'll send you the raw footage with us.
I was gonna say, send it on Instagram. Send me a private message of it. Yeah, I love to see that. Yeah, or a compilation. That'd be amazing.
Oh man, he can hurt a guy. He's tough as nails. Your number one fan though wants to know, what's your best match?
Oh, interesting, man.
First of all, if he's your number one fan, you think he'd know this already, right?
Yeah. It's weird because I think I've got two categories of it. One where like you just enjoy it the most, and like at the time it's just the most amazing, but it might not be like the best. Five. I've never had a 5-star match. But like, it might be in that category, and then there's a category where you're like, man, that was technically sound, really good. I was really happy with that, obviously it won't be a 5-star, but it's the best effort you've ever done, you know. So I'll answer both. I think for me, it was the first time I won the IPW title, our New Zealand Championship. I remember in 2015. I remember that was just one of my goals when I started in 07. So, and I just always thought it wasn't possible because like I was a little guy. I've only really been gymming for the last 2 years, which is really like, if I tell any wrestler, it's like, you've got to get in that gym. You got to get big. You got to get in shape. You got to get fit. So I wasn't really fit back then, but to win it then, I just remember that. But like, and having my dad and my mum in the ring and stuff was just a really cool moment. So I like that as a moment. As a match, technically, it's probably one of the Iron Man matches I've done. I I I I do this match called the Ultimate Match. It's like my gimmick match I do, and it's a 30-minute Iron Man match, but the last 10 minutes is hardcore. Like the DQ gets thrown out the window for the last 10 minutes. So
Nice.
I've done about 6 of them, and you have the countdown on the Tron, so everyone counts down that last 10, and then you always have an animation like glass breaks and stuff, and then it just turns into a hardcore match.
That's
So
an
I would say,
interesting take.
yeah, it's just me and this other fella. I won't mention his name. He got cancelled, and rightfully so. But him and I came up with the match, and then I pitched it to the bookers, and since then I've done it like quite often. I've wrestled. I don't know if you've heard the name Niwa in England. He's a New Zealand wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and I have done the Ultimate Match. We've done the Iron. That was his last match in New Zealand before he left for Mexico, actually. So we've a lot of people, a lot of cool, like, interesting names have been in that Ultimate Match category and stuff. We did one in July, July, yeah, July that just went. It was a first ever fatal 4-way Ultimate Match. So that would be up there. That would be one of my favorite matches too, I think. Yeah, I would say that the fatal 4-way Ultimate Match that I did in July is probably technically and pace wise, probably one of my best ones I've done. I just remember watching it and I was really proud of it. And I would say wrestling T-Hawk at the last Aotearoa Rumble show, which is Hinare, New Japan Hinare's promotion. He runs it here. And actually, I'll show you.
Getting a little show and tell here.
Yeah, right on.
Oh,
Yeah. So I won the Aotearoa heavyweight title, which is his promotion he runs, and he trusted me enough to put the championship on me. So I was real happy with it. This is a cool, nice belt they've got here.
that is.
Yeah, it is.
I like
it's
that.
a really, really awesome one. So yeah, so he I'd say that because that was in front of 800 people. We did like
Sweet.
a big stadium, which is really big for New Zealand wrestling. And I was the main event, and we just did a single. It's the first time a bad guy just won, like ended the show winning. So it was, yeah, pretty down at ending, which I liked. I was like, yes.
Well, I'm just going to say this right now to the chat. We have 3 more questions that have come in from the chat, and I want to allow Papa Smokes to at least get one more in himself before we go, because we are coming to the top of the hour. Anybody who's watching right now, if you want, stick around on our channel a little bit longer afterwards, because coming up right after us, it's going to be the Honor Ramble with your hosts, Auntie Collins, Kyle Sparks, and Kimmy Sokol, as they're going to run down what happened on Ring of Honor television here tonight. So stay tuned for that as well. So Papa Smokes, we're going to go to you first, and then I'm going to go to the last 3 questions of the chat here before we wrap things up here tonight.
Sure. I'm curious about the business of companies in New Zealand. It's obvious that they're turning out some quite quality wrestlers, but also with your neighbors, Australia, quite in the spotlight nowadays for having a lot of wrestlers in the big companies over in America. Do you guys in New Zealand do a lot of talent trading with Australia? And how often do you guys do tours over in Australia and vice versa?
Yeah.
Very similar to Ed's question,
yeah.
actually. So Ed had a very similar question, so we'll kind of give
Yeah.
Ed the
I
screen
think
there for a moment.
it's actually not used enough. It's not used enough. We actually don't do it that much, which I think it's something we going forward. I really want to open the door of that. I've done a few shows in MCW, which are like it's the top promotion in Melbourne
Melbourne.
and
Yeah.
PWA in Sydney. I've done a few shows there. Um, but yeah, it's not done enough. It's something we need to. We used to do a bit back in the day. We had Kellyanne, who was our women's champ. She was from Australia. She would fly over and defend the belt and stuff. Yeah, so it's something I'd really like to maybe open the window a bit more. Really, I think they could benefit New Zealand a bit more. I think getting because Australia's like they're amazing at the moment. They're really doing a good job, man. And you've got people like Rhea Ripley and stuff who are just mega stars, and Buddy Murphy, and they're really
Yeah.
doing amazing.
Yeah, and that's kind of wanted to also get your thoughts on the rise of Australian and New Zealand
Oh,
wrestling, getting a little bit more
phenomenal.
attention and seeing people actually making their way over to North America here to work for
Yeah,
companies
it's
like
funny because
WWE.
like a lot of those guys, I remember wrestling on shows with him, like Bronson Reed and Carl Fletcher and Dave, his tag partner and stuff. Like his tag partner, I used to send memes all the time to each other. So yeah, it's cool seeing these guys that you like 10 years ago. I just wrestled independent shows with them and stuff. I remember sitting in Macca's with Bronson Reed and just like eating that. He's such a nice dude, man, and you like just pick his brain and stuff. So yeah, it's cool seeing these guys just like I think I was on one of Kyle Fletcher's first shows, I think maybe.
Oh well,
Just in in Sydney maybe or maybe yeah, I remember him being on a show. Yeah. Yeah, he was a cool dude too. He was a really nice dude.
awesome. All right, two more questions from the audience. We'll go to this one first from our good friend Bobby. Have you ever had a match against Robbie Eagles?
I have not. He's a phenomenal talent. I used to annoy him on PlayStation 3 when I'd see he was online. I would send him messages because I was just watching Netflix and I would send him a message. I haven't wrestled him. He's phenomenal. I'd love to wrestle him. Yeah, he's a cool dude. He's another nice guy, man. He's a great guy, and he just knows so much about wrestling.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get to see that one of these days. And
Yeah.
last question from the audience here from TKO. What do you think of the up and comers in New Zealand? And maybe if you got a few names who's up and coming that you see taking that spotlight one of these days.
Yeah, real. Good question there. I think Cool Guy Sky's a real. He's the champ at the moment, but he's relatively new. He's got potential to be quite a established name in New Zealand. I think, as much as he can be. He's on the cusp, I'd say. Ryder as well. Ryder's phenomenal. He's in Auckland. I would say we've got a fella called Jay Rilla who's like 200 kgs, and he's only just debuted like last year, and he's really like already like people are like he's an attraction, like people come to see him and stuff. So I would say he's probably our next up and comer, Jay Rilla. He'll probably be champ like in a couple of like months or maybe next year or something. I imagine he'll be in a position where they just chuck the belt on him and he'll just run with it.
Yeah. And just for anybody watching that happens to be in North America, 200 kgs equals equivalent about 441 pounds.
Yeah.
So we're talking a very meaty attraction there at that size.
Yeah, and he does kind of like a King Kong gimmick, like his gear's like he's like a gorilla. He's called the Great Ape pretty much, and his Tron's just got like a
That's fantastic.
it's great, man. And initially he was supposed to be a bad guy, but within 2 shows, everyone was like, "This guy's the coolest thing I've seen." So we just made him babyface. We were like, go kill heels. So I know, which is bad news for me because I know, like, probably soon they'll be like, "Oh, you're next in line to be fed to him." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, sweet as."
Yeah.
Just got a big nasty finish, which I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna hurt the back of my head when I take that."
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it too before. We bring certain talents in and they're a heel somewhere else in Canada or something like that. You bring them in and in Saskatoon's a whole different story there. That
Yeah.
nope, we're not having it. That's not a heel. We're gonna go out and make this our baby face, and then you just roll with the punches.
It's funny how that happens. Eh?
Go with
Yeah. And I think the best thing in that situation is not fighting it. I tell people that all the time. If you're a heel out there and they just start cheering you, don't fight it. If it's your character to not like want to be cheered, then maybe like embrace that. But for me, like the Divine Savior, if people started cheering me, that's what that character wants. End of the day, that character's a con man that wants to be cheered. And thing. So why would I then fight it? So I tell people, if you're getting cheered out there and you're a heel, and you think your character would appreciate being, just go with it. Be like, oh, cool, cool, you're cheering me, awesome. You know,
Well, and to reference what happened at the last show there too, the fans
yeah,
started cheering for Ryder in the
Oh
tag
yeah.
match and
yeah,
really booing everything you did. You guys are supposed to be the tag champs working
yeah,
together,
yeah.
and they were having none of it. They're loving
That was
Ryder over
great.
there.
That all came together. That was the plan. Like that was all like. And when I pitched that, I was like, "This is the show where Ryder gets cheered and stuff." And he did a phenomenal job. He just got over and stuff. And I told him, I was like, the whole point of this tag team is to turn you face and to like really get you over. Like it's the whole point of this. And he's played that role so well. And like I do enjoy a tag team where I get to beat up the tag part. It's always weird when I'm doing it. I'm like, man, this is my tag partner, and I'm like slapping him and stuff. So yeah, yeah,
And you know,
he's pulled the trigger.
Ryder is deceptively good too, kind of
Oh,
thing,
yes.
because he doesn't look like your standard professional
Yeah,
wrestler when he walks out there. But man, does he
yeah.
go in the ring? He
I
really
think
brings it in the ring.
I think that was like when we started that team because my first show there back after that long like hiatus. I came back in 2022 and they pitched it to me. They were like, "Oh, who's someone? Maybe we could put you in a team." And I remember Ryder had real similar gear to me. I was like, "Man, I'm like, what are you guys doing with Ryder?" Like, and they were unsure at the time. I think they were like, "We're not sure. We want to push him. Like, he trains. He's really good. He's got a lot of talent, but I don't think he's found himself." And I told them I was like, "I'd love to just play that role where like I just help enhance him." Like, and we've been doing that for 2 years now, which are like I think that was the big payoff, obviously that tag like that night there. So it's cool to see it all kind of finally take place, and now it's obviously going to go to the next step where we wrestle each other, which I'm really looking forward to. But yeah,
Well, and again, at this point in time, that could be for the SPW championship because Ryder has that big match coming up
who
with Cool Guy
knows,
Sky.
man?
So ball
I
could be in
hope it
your court
is.
very soon.
I hope it is. It's one of the few championships in New Zealand I haven't won that SPW title. I've held 37 championships in this country, and that's
Wow.
one I've got another two down here. I'll show you one sec.
Yeah.
Gonna get it. As Ed mentioning, he hopes the Great Ape is a DBZ reference there. There we go. There's the look at those. And you
That's
guys got
nice
some
too.
awesome belts there. Really awesome. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful.
One of the rhinestones just fell off as I manhandled it. Don't
Those
tell
are
the promoter.
some amazing looking belts, I gotta say.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I still think the warrior one, the
Yeah,
Aotearoa one's
that's got a
phenomenal.
classic feel to it, that one
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Everyone's not a fan of the square, man. But the moment I saw that, I was like, it's different. It's like old school. I love holding it like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't like wearing belts. I love holding it like Flair. I just think it's classy. But yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, I'm not in his class, but
Oh no, maybe one day. We'll see.
one day.
All right. Well, I gotta say it's been great having you on the show. We
Yeah.
do have to kind of wrap up to make way, of
No
course,
problem. No problem.
for our next show coming up. Belts hold on your pants, says Ed.
Yeah,
Yes, they do.
championship.
Thanks for your insight there, Ed. We appreciate it. But as we're getting to the end here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to throw your credentials down on the screen there, ticking down below.
Cheers.
Let people know where they can reach out to you and what you got coming up in the not so distant future.
Yeah, Instagram, Divine Savior, and obviously the YouTube channel down there, Mr. Jam Lime 44. Instagram's probably the best one, Divine Savior, Divine Light. That's probably the best way to reach out to me. Coming up, I've got Fans Ring the Weapons next week. If you're in Auckland, that's in Mount Albert, 7 p.m. Mount Albert War Memorial Hall on a Saturday, 21st of September. Then October 7th or 6th, I believe, I might potentially be defending this championship at an Aotearoa heavyweight at an Aotearoa show. I'm not 100% sure what I might be doing. I might be issuing an open challenge. We'll have to see. As for that, it's just you probably find me every Saturday if you're in New Zealand, somewhere around the country. And I usually have a calendar on me, but think I've left it in the other house. So
And I'm
Yeah.
I'm presuming Saturday, October 26th at Halloween Haunting there for SPW as well too.
100%. I'll be there. I've already got the flights booked. So yeah. Funny enough, my girlfriend lives in Invercargill, so it's
Oh, perfect.
it's a good, yeah. I get to stay with her, so it's cool. Yeah. So that's a big one. October 26th, Halloween Haunting, SPW. Keep that in your calendar if you're in Invercargill, or just keep an eye on YouTube.
Yep, and stay tuned to our show because we'll be reviewing it
Yep.
once that becomes available. But
Looking
we're
forward to
just
that.
gonna make the show get a lot more expensive here because the most expensive ticker on the planet just hit the screen. Papa,
Oh, yeah.
tell 'em where you're at.
All right, let's run the ticker, baby. I can be found on Elon Musk's free speech wonderland known as X. I am at smokes_Papa. You can also find me on Twitter at Papa_smokes_.
All right, that's where you can find Papa Smokes. That's for myself, Bobby Munson, on the X. I'm at Real Bobby Munson, Instagram and Threads at that Video Bros SK, and over on my personal Twitch at Video Bro_Bobby Munson. As always, you can catch myself, Papa Smokes, every Saturday afternoon on YouTube with Prairie Pro Wrestling, calling all the shots, one match every single week from the vault. You could also catch me here on the channel every Thursday with Papa Smokes, every Sunday with Mark Robson as we're talking all things football, whether it be football, aka soccer, or American football. We're talking about that and different sports from around the world. So check us out on Point of View. I've got various movies reviews and music reaction videos here on the channel as well for you. And that channel right there is OLE Podcast, as you've seen down below. That's the ticker, OLE Podcast, across all of the different platforms, including YouTube and Twitch, where we encourage you to give us a like, follow, subscribe, click the notification bell so you know what anything we got new material. We got Bobby saying it was a great interview. He enjoyed the interview. Ed loved the interview. And just at the last minute, the Samoan Watchman came in and said, "What's up, fellas? What's up, Samoan Watchman? Thank you for coming on by." Stay tuned because right now we got coming up in a few moments, Kyle Sparks, Auntie Collins, and Kimmy Sokol telling you all about Ring of Honor on the Honor Ramble. So thank you very much, James, for joining us here today. And thank
Absolute
you very
pleasure,
much.
guys.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
We'll have to do a part two. Part two coming up.
100%.
Yes.
100%. We got to do this
100%
again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Love it.
absolutely. Really enjoyed talking to you guys and talking to the chat and stuff. It was really fun.
For sure. Feel free to stick around a couple of minutes
Yeah.
as we go off the air here. But thank you everyone in the chat for tuning in. And we will see you in 1 week's time for more Ring Respect Radio. Take care, everybody.